Hi, everyone. I want to respond to the outcomes of the recent Unitarian Universalist Association's General Assembly, particularly its overhaul of Article 2, which has eliminated the 7 principles that have long served to articulate the values and aspirations of our liberal religion. I continue to believe, as I argue in the second essay of the Gadfly Papers, that what is now happening to our religion is the inevitable result of the merger of Unitarianism and Universalism in 1961. Many people, including many who support me, have repeatedly told me they disagree with this essay, but none have ever told me why they disagree. The historical sources I cite and my argument is sound. So some may find my conclusion disagreeable, which is different than disagreeing with my argument. In short, I point out that these once separate religions had considered merging for over a century, but did not because of 2 insurmountable differences, class and theology. Once the rushed merger did happen in 1961, we mostly stopped talking about the unique histories and varied roots of these 2 different religions. This was so, I suggest, in order to avoid creating a conflict over the unresolved theological and class differences. So as time went on, we slowly went from being an association of Unitarians and Universalists to an association of Unitarian Universalists, a completely new religion with no history of its own and no clear definition of what a UU is. In the decades to follow, the definition became increasingly vague, opening the door for anything, including the opportunists who have now captured the UUA and completely redefined its purpose and discarded its values. Just recently, after a memorial service, a visitor approached me to learn more about our religion, saying, "As I understand it, it's based on a belief in all religions." I've heard this definition, which is entirely false, often over the years. I'm guessing some of you have too. But given the outcome of the recent General Assembly, I think it's now fair to say Unitarian Universalism will believe just about anything. Instead of the UU Association, perhaps it should also change its name to the Woo-Woo Association. So snide jest aside, the recent changes to Article 2 replaces the 7 principles with 7 euphemisms with the nebulous word love at their center. Absent are words like dignity, freedom, democracy, autonomy, and individuality. This should not be surprising, for in fashioning a dogmatic, top-down, mind-control cult, individual freedom of thought is the first thing that must go. For example, during a recent meeting held by the UU Women's Federation, UUA President Sophia Bentecourt spoke unfavorably of the first principle in particular, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Here's what she is reported to have said. "I struggle with our first principle. I do. If you will forgive me briefly, the language of the inherent worth and dignity of every person comes from Immanuel Kant, the literal father of modern racism." Immanuel Kant was a man of his time and did write some things we would certainly consider racist by today's standards. Yet he also gave us the categorical imperative. A person should never be used as a means to someone else's ends, but should be considered an end within themselves. For these reasons, contemporary thinkers debate whether or not to consider Kant an inconsistent egalitarian or a consistent inegalitarian. Most would disagree with Bentecourt's summation of him, but to be fair, she does have some ground for connecting him to racist views, although calling him the father of modern racism is a stretch in my opinion. The language of the first principle, however, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, which has been inserted into constitutions of several democratic nations, originated during the French Revolution, not from Kant. More importantly, the argument that somebody was wrong about one thing and therefore is wrong about all things is simply illogical. Both Kant's categorical imperative that no person should be treated as a means to somebody else's ends, and that all people have inherent worth and dignity logically support the goals of equality and justice, no matter their source. To suggest that we can achieve these without valuing and recognizing the worth of individuals is preposterous and makes such an endeavor meaningless. It's like saying ships were once used to transport slaves, therefore all shipping is white supremacy. Nevertheless, in recent years, there has been an explicit endeavor to replace our liberal religion with what is euphemistically being called a covenantal religion, which really means a dogmatic authoritarian religion. Beginning with the influential Berry Street lecture to UU ministers delivered by Reverend Frederick Muir in 2012, who proposed that this move towards covenant would allow the UUA to create something that has eluded Unitarian Universalism, a doctrine of church. This will happen, he said, because we cannot do both covenant and individualism. Muir said our religion is based on a trinity of errors: individualism, exceptionalism, and our allergy to authority, individualism being the worst of them all. During the 2016 UUA General Assembly, the moderator held up one of Muir's books while announcing a new task force on recovenanting, charged, he said, with changing the culture of the UUA from one of a member services administration to one of mutual covenanting. In 2018, a UUA study action issue was approved stating, "Decentering whiteness calls us to decenter individual dignity for our collective liberation." And in a 2019 UU World article, then UUA President Susan Frederick Gray wrote that covenant is the antidote to individualism. All of this has led to a new definition of Unitarianism that excludes individual freedom and dignity along with reason and tolerance. This definition was presented at the beginning of an action of immediate witness, solidarity with Palestinians, that was also passed during the recent UUA General Assembly, which states, "Our Unitarian Universalist faith draws on the moral imperative of radical love, and despite all odds, calls us to uphold a world where liberation is real and we all thrive." As much as I feel for the plight of the Palestinians, which I have often spoken about, subtle, even pleasant as this statement may sound, the moral imperative requiring that nobody be used as a means to another's ends is replaced with the imperative of radical love, a term so nebulous that its meaning can be made up on the spot to justify all manner of behavior, as has been true of other religions claiming to be based on love, the love of God, for example. Equally as troubling is the replacement of the word liberal with liberation. They sound similar, but the word liberal refers to individual freedom. Liberation, the way it's being used by the UUA, is about liberating masses of people, collective liberation, as they say, even at the expense of denying individual freedom, particularly the rights to speak and think for oneself, especially when disagreeing with its new illiberal theology or ideology. All of this has led me to conclude that whatever the UUA has been becoming, it has finally become something entirely detached from its traditional roots and values. It is no longer a liberal religion, and I don't believe its leaders care to identify as such. The culmination of this change to a dogmatic and authoritarian religion is its removal of the 7 principles, particularly the inherent worth and dignity of every person, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and the right of conscience in the use of the democratic processes within our congregations and in society at large, none of which align with the new religion's dogmatism of groupthink, which again they euphemistically and therefore misleadingly, in my opinion, refer to as covenant and collective liberation. My spouse and I have lost 3 of our parents between us to dementia and Alzheimer's. Since the results regarding Article 2, the emotions that I have felt in response have been similar. Those with these dreaded diseases forget who they are. They forget their past. They forget those they once loved. Yet because they remain alive, we cannot fully grieve their loss. It's not until they are gone that we can truly begin to let go and move on. To me, this is how it's been with the UUA. Those who have assumed its leadership these past several years don't remember who we are. They don't remember our long history. They don't remember the principles we once loved. Many of us have been struggling to help them remember and have gone through all the pain of feeling like we've been talking to strangers who sometimes lash out at us in anger. But now, with the dismantling of the 7 principles, it's time to grieve the loss of the UUA and begin to move on. What, after all, can the UUA do for religious liberals now? They've gotten rid of all the districts, district offices, district staff, district meetings, district boards, district program councils, district programs, district representatives on the UUA board, all of which once brought us together with the wider UU community and made us part of the UUA's work and decisions. The UUA is no longer able to supply enough ministers to meet the needs of our congregations, and many of those who are available have been indoctrinated with its new illiberal ideology and, in my opinion, are not worthy or fit to occupy our free pulpits. Even the one event left that once brought us together with our UUs, brothers and sisters from around the U.S. and Canada, the Annual General Assembly, is held completely online. So what does the UUA do for our religion today? In my opinion, the answer is nothing. The UUA as we knew it is now gone. So let's remember the association for what it was before it lost its mind. Let's cherish those good memories, grieve, and begin to move forward. We still have our principles. They may have been forgotten by some, but we haven't forgotten them. And we can record them wherever we want, hopefully engrave them in our hearts and incarnate them through our actions, which is most important of all. We still have deep historical roots and can use them to remember where we come from and the direction we're supposed to be heading. We still have our purpose in the world. We still have each other. We can still support each other, and we can still make a difference.